E te whānau o Mainfreight, e te kuia mā, e te koro mā, nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow shareholders, good afternoon. My name is Bruce Plested, and I have much pleasure in opening this 24th annual meeting of Mainfreight Limited. On the information conveyed to me by the company, I declare that a quorum of shareholders is present. You've received a copy of the notice of meeting that was sent out with the annual report. I declare that the meeting's been duly convened in terms of the Companies Act 1993 and the company's constitution. Before commencing the business of the meeting, I'd like to introduce your directors to you. On my far left are Simon Cotter and Don Braid. On my far right, Richard Prebble, Sue Tyndall, Brian Mulgridge and Kate Parsons. I can advise the meeting that a combined total of 442 postal votes and proxies have been received in respect of over 56 million shares. I will detail the discretionary votes held by directors later in the meeting. Minutes. The minutes of the last annual meeting held on 26th of July 2018 are available for inspection and were approved by the directors at their meeting held on 17th of October 2018. Voting on resolutions. In terms of the formal business, we have 5 resolutions to put before the meeting. We'll cover each resolution in turn and invite questions specific to these items. It will then be time to vote on the resolutions which are detailed in the notice of meeting and which relate to the re-election of directors, revoking the old constitution and adopting the new resolution, and authorising directors to fix the fees and expenses of the auditor. Voting on each resolution this year will be by way of poll, and I will outline the process we will follow at that point in the agenda. This is a departure from our usual show of hands voting and is a requirement under the new NZX listing rules, which were issued on the 1st of January 2019. Before attending to the formal business of the meeting, I'd like to give my impressions of the past year and of current and future activities. I'll then ask our Group Managing Director, Mr. Don Braid, to address the meeting. Welcome to our 41st Annual General Meeting. Since our beginnings in 1978 and our 24th meeting since listing on the New Zealand Stock Exchange in 1996. The year ended March 2019 produced the continuation of 9 consecutive years of record profits, record results. Record profits up 29 million to 141 million before abnormals. Global sales up 330 million to 2.95 billion. That represents sales in excess or close to 57 million per week. Income tax payable for the year increased by 9 million to 54 million. The discretionary bonus payable to our worldwide team increased by 6.5 million to 27.2 million. Our annual dividend paid to shareholders increased by 11 million to 56 million. Number 6, the average annual return from share growth, including dividends, over the past 10 years is 27.9%. That deserves a clap. On November the 6th this year, we'll celebrate 30 years since our beginning in Australia. Breaking into the Australian market was probably the most difficult challenge in our history, apart from the beginning of Mainfreight in the late 70s. In Australia, over 2001 to 2003, we managed to lose close to 20 million Aussie dollars, and it took huge effort and personal courage to recover and eventually prosper. Today, we're a respected member of the Australian transport industry, and this year and in the future are likely to generate more revenue than from New Zealand. In our annual report, which I know you will all have read, I wrote, could it be that a sharing of a percentage of profits amongst the people who helped make them should be an essential part of capitalism? In the past week, a New Zealand film, Capital in the 21st Century, has been showing at the New Zealand International Film Festival. The film is based on a book by French economist Thomas Piketty. The film, which is highly recommended, suggests that as the accumulation of excessive capital or wealth by too few members of society, which has caused much destruction, from the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, 2 world wars, the 1930s depression, the 2008 financial crisis, and the election of populist political leaders. Following these events, the new leaders have promised a more equal society, but this has seldom happened. Piketty suggests that the years 1950 to 1980, a period perhaps well known to many Mainfreight shareholders here today, was a golden age of relative equality and quite unique. We're proud to advise our shareholders of the sharing of our success and the paying of not only a profit-sharing bonus, but also the full payment of our income taxes. We strongly believe that the payment of income tax means that we are contributing to society, to health and education, roading, etc. Individuals and companies which are not paying a fair share of taxes are enabling themselves to accumulate excessive wealth and are not contributing to the welfare of their own countries. Piketty suggests that the non-payment of taxes by some huge global companies and by others registering themselves and their companies in various tax havens robs governments of legitimate income and foments, I had said ferments, but Nikki told me it was foments, social unrest, and finally rebellion. Many would agree. How do we see the year ahead? The year ended March 2019 was an extraordinary year, lifting our net profit before abnormals by 26%. We have much momentum, new projects and opportunities, and a belief that we can deal with and sometimes even prosper as business ebbs and flows and great nations bicker at their own expense. Climate change is the most serious challenge that the world, as we know it, is now facing. Dealing with this change must be tackled by individuals, organisations, business, governments and countries. We must not blame others or wait until they do something. Every individual can and must contribute. Mainfreight will continue to do all that we can to deal with climate change. In closing, I would again like to acknowledge our shareholders. Many of our large investors have been long-term supporters, and we enjoy the long association with many of our smaller shareholders. We appreciate your loyalty and emphasise our commitment to remaining a New Zealand-listed company. Thank you. Fellow shareholders, I would now like to ask the Group Managing Director, Don Braid, to give his presentation.
It's quite easy to clear the top table there. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate your comments about the business and no pressure, only 26%. Perhaps if we just take a quick look back at the financial year, because of course it is just rear vision stuff and it's all about what's happening in front of us. We increased our team numbers by 506. We've now got 8,079. Well, that was actually at the end of the financial year. I found out yesterday we got 8,349 now. We're in 260 branches. That's up 13 in 24 countries. We opened in Malaysia and Japan. And just in the last few weeks, we opened an extra 2 branches in Japan because of the amount of inquiry we've got for being there. Our revenue was up nearly 13%. We were looking for that 3 billion mark. Not quite there, unfortunately. And interesting to know that our offshore revenues are now 2.24 billion. EBITDA up at 257 million, up 19.5%. And our net surplus, as Bruce has just mentioned, up 21% to 141 million. I think it's important to note that bonus for our team. Bruce and I have just spent the last week signing every single cheque for those individuals who will participate in the discretionary bonus. It's a special time. You get to sign an enormous amount of money away to those that actually put in a lot of effort to actually make that money for us as shareholders and for the company. And it's their hard work that's producing this business that we've got. We didn't forget about the shareholders either. We increased the dividend to 56 cents, up 11 cents from 45 cents the year prior. And of course, the adjusted earnings per share was 140, up from 111 in the previous year. If you don't think we're becoming a global business, offshore, our revenues are 75.7% of our total sales. And finally, the pendulum has moved just a little bit more, where our profit is 56%. That's not to say we finished here in New Zealand. That's not to say that we haven't got a business here in New Zealand. We certainly have. It's strong and continuing to be strong in what it does for us. But we're finally getting some traction in those larger economies. For the first time this year, to the analyst community, we broke down the 3 core products: transport, warehousing, and air and ocean. And we've given you a little look of that, but you can see that between the 3 products, they are the 3 core things that we do for our customers, that the revenue breakdown between transport and air and ocean is relatively similar. Transport, of course, is the domestic transportation in each country, and warehousing is a little smaller. And those teams in the warehousing business do an awful lot to add revenue to the air and ocean business and to the transport business. So whatever's in our warehouses, we want to cart it in and we want to cart it out. And an area that we haven't yet fulfilled very well is to actually convert that freight that's in our warehouses on behalf of our customers in terms of air and ocean. So getting the air import or the sea import or the export for that matter. It keeps us busy. Another little thing that we've shared with the community in this latest annual report is trying to break down just how well we're converting those customers from being just a transport customer to actually being a supply chain customer and using all 3 products. And that's a core activity for our sales teams and for our managers to do, is to convert that business so that we have more of the pie and embed ourselves deeper into the customer's supply chain. So we think that we're around about 36,000 customers across all 5 regions. Primarily, we're in that FMCG, food, beverage, DIY, retail, pharmaceutical type products. And of those top 500 customers, they produce 56% of that revenue. This time last year, when I stood up here, of those top 500, 28% used us across all 3 products. In the year, our teams have worked really hard, and that's now at 31%. And that's a core KPI for us to build our products and to gain more out of those customers. And we're working harder to continue to build that advantage that we think will beat the competition. Those core strategic initiatives for us, this is the shortest strategic plan in the world. It's the intensification of our network, both globally, regionally, and within each city. Be closer to our customers, so we want our network to be as close to where our customer is or the customer's customer. We don't like agents. We don't like working with others doing our deliveries. We're not very good partners. We're quite fussy. We want to add value in our technology, keep it simple, keep it effective, not pay too much for it. We want to build high quality purpose facilities for freight and for warehousing and our air and ocean movements. And more importantly than anything else, a dedicated, motivated, energetic bunch of people delivering great services for our customers. So those areas of focus, which I don't think we've quite got right. Firstly, it's about our people, getting our culture right. You know, if you're running a business that's in 24 countries around the world, the culture's not quite right in some of those faraway places. As Brian Mogridge makes the point, the further they get away from the church or the headquarters, the worse the culture is. And we've got a lot of work to do to get them to understand our culture, because our culture, the way our people interact with our customers and with each other, is a key component of what makes us different. We want them all to understand the strategy and the direction of the business. There's no point in our person in Rotterdam busy selling air and ocean into New Zealand not understanding the warehousing or the transport opportunities we've got in New Zealand, or vice versa for that matter. It's about our network, making sure the customers that we have fit our network. There's no point in having a network that doesn't suit our customer base. It's about our quality. Our customers really matter to us. It's about our growth. It's about organic growth, not necessarily acquisition growth. We get this question asked all the time by the analyst community, you know, are we looking at buying other businesses? Well, frankly, when you have a look at the capital expenditure we've got planned, we've got no money to go and buy another business, nor have we got the time or the patience to actually have to convert those businesses with all their bad habits into Mainfreight. We've got good organic growth going on right now. Why would we have to go and buy another business to add to that? The three core products, transport, air and ocean, and warehousing, and that everybody in the business, all 8,342 of them, are thinking about growth, thinking about being bigger and being bolder. So that capital expenditure, we always try and bite off a bit more than we can chew. This year we only spent 90 million, and mostly that's because property settlements didn't occur in that financial year, particularly in Australia and here in New Zealand. So in the next financial couple of years, we're likely to spend 430 million, 350 million of that on land and buildings. The rest on technology and making sure we've got the right equipment for our teams to deliver the business for our customers. 37 land and building projects underway. Why do we want to have a network model? It's really important to us. It's a key advantage for us. We are a very decentralised business. We want decisions being made as close to the customer as possible. So therefore, that network needs to be as intensive as we can make it. We want to offer a fully integrated end-to-end service for our customers. Therefore, we want to be at the start and we want to be at the finish, and if we can be greedy, we want to do everything in the middle of it. We want the freight to stay in our network. The agent, or the people that don't belong to Mainfreight, don't necessarily think the way we do. They're not thinking about their long-term future. They're not thinking about building this business for 100 years. It becomes quite transactional. Whereas a Mainfreight person starts thinking about the longevity of this business. How long are we around for? How important is this customer to our business? Those are the people that we want handling our customers' business. Control the quality, the consistency in the service, and of course, every time you're talking to a customer, we've got this opportunity to talk to them about where we are around the world and what else we can do for them. So we want to capitalise on those customers in the business. So if we think about that network intensity, here's a snapshot of what Melbourne looks like for us. We've got quite a few operations. And you can see in that city, from one side to the other, I think from a transport point of view, it's about 72 kilometres from our Clayton depot to our Epping depot. So the opportunity to be able to halve that and deliver to those customers closest to Clayton and deliver closest to those customers in Epping gets us to the customer sooner, faster, and more effective than perhaps the competition. And at the same time, we then dot our air and ocean business and our warehouses where they're best suited for those customers' customer. So it becomes a really intensive network within the city. And then, of course, if we get a little bit more regionally, we talk about the Ballarats, the Bendigos, and the Geelongs of the world. Just to have a look at what we're doing there, that's our Epping facility in the background. That's the land that we've bought beside it to build another warehouse. And then when that's built, it'll be full. The customers have already committed for that warehouse. Plenty of little yellow diggers. This is the property in Dandenong, which is further south, where we will move our Clayton facility to, because the Clayton facility has become too small. Kookaburra in Sydney, brand new warehouse. Just filled the last empty spaces with a new customer, 5,000 pallets of product that will be hazardous and earn the business both the transport and the distribution. In Sydney, we want to be on rail, and it's quite difficult. Easy to be on rail here in New Zealand, not that easy to be on rail in Australia. We've located this property and we're in the process of negotiating the heads of agreement with it, but as you can see, it sits beside the rail line. We'll be able to rail off the wharf in Sydney directly into the facility. We'll build both warehousing, transportation, cross-dock, and our Owens Wharf operation. And if we get good enough, they will also provide us with rail for interstate movements, just like what we do here in New Zealand, taking away the emphasis from being just a trucking company to actually being multimodal. The new Mangatawa site in Mount Maunganui, under construction, and we hope to be in there late 2020. It will be a very, very special site and one of our biggest here in New Zealand. And we're becoming Westies. We've bought some land out west and we thought we could hold off building, but we can't. And we've got planning underway already to build a facility, a cross-dock facility there. And if this is the best way, I suppose, of understanding about the intensity of the network, we have enough freight from the west and to the west from cities all around New Zealand where we can move the freight directly to this facility and then in a closer radius to the customer, rather than bringing it in to South Auckland, over South Auckland, on the congested motorway, out for delivery. So we'll be there sooner, quicker, and hopefully far more effective for the customer. And of course, it opens up the north for us as well, where we think Whangarei, Kaitaia, Keri is all becoming an important part of what we're doing in New Zealand. We held our last board meeting in Europe, and we held it at this facility in Zaltbommel. We started construction in April of last year. We started moving freight in December of last year, and it's about 3/4 full. I'm not sure anywhere here in New Zealand or Australia for that matter we can build a building as quickly as that. And of course, we've got a host of other sites that we're building, warehouses and cross-docks, transport facilities, Whakatane, Levin, Lille, Manchester, El Paso, just to name a few. And we heard from our European guys that they think that they'll be able to open in Spain before the end of the year as well. Probably because there's a couple of analysts sitting in the room, we thought we'd better give them a trading update. The first quarter to June 19, it could have been a bit better. April was a really tough month. Bloody great to have Easter off and Anzac Day, and we all sunned ourselves on the beaches, but it doesn't do any good for freight movement. So it was a pretty disappointing month. And frankly, both New Zealand and Australia, the transport businesses suffered because of that. The Australians, probably a bit like their cricket team and rugby team, they could have done a bit better and probably still could do a bit better. It's gone quite quiet in Australia. However, the benefit of being in lots of other regions, of growing a global business, the European, American and the Asian business have all contributed quite nicely. So we see, by that end of first half, we will be ahead of where we were again last year. The sales pipelines are reasonably full. Yes, the economic conditions, and if you listen to the media, slit your wrist tomorrow, but the economic conditions are a little bit concerning. But for us, if we have stronger sales activities, sales, we've got an opportunity to offset any of those issues. What happens if there's a hard Brexit? We think it'll be good for us. Lots of customs clearances required. Lots of advice required for those European and UK shippers. So it should give us an opportunity rather than seeing it as a problem. The China-US issue, yes, we've definitely seen trade drop off between the two. But at the same time, we've seen trade out of Vietnam, out of Malaysia, out of Bangkok increase into the US. But of course, we can also see China looking to Europe more, and we can see them looking intra-Asia as well, where we're very well set up to look after their freight movements. Global trade, yeah, maybe there's a slowing of international trade. Interestingly, in the first quarter, our air and ocean and warehousing businesses performed better than the domestic transportation businesses. So we perhaps haven't seen as much evidence of that slowdown. And again, we're in multiple countries and constantly trying to build our market position by taking business off the big guys. So what fuels this 100-year journey we're on? Because Marcus down the back furiously writing away the next quarter announcement. We're not here for the next quarter, we're here for the next 100 years. And it's about our people. It's the individuals who get us, who want to grow our culture and they want to have a career with us. That's really important to us. That's the point of difference. That's who we are. And when you're out calling on these quite big customers, they tell us that the point of difference is the people they're dealing with at Mainfreight. That's what's winning us business. That's what's winning us market share. We want to be useful and effective for our customers. There's no point in having a customer unless we can improve their position for them. We want to be far better at quality. We want to think about being bigger and being bolder. Think about the next decade, not the next quarter, and be here for our future generations. We're an ambitious bunch of so-and-sos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. We now come to the formal business. The annual report. The first formal item on the agenda is to receive and consider the annual report of the company for the year ended 31st of March 2019, including the financial statements for that year and the directors' and auditors' reports to shareholders. These documents have been circulated to all shareholders, and further copies are available now if anyone should require one. No resolution is required. However, the floor is open if anybody would like to discuss any aspect of the annual report. Microphones are available. Well, Coralie, come in.
Van Camp shareholder. First of all, congratulations on another stellar year.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're absolutely right looking after your staff and making sure they're getting bonuses and being included in the profit of the company. I was at another AGM recently, the company shall remain nameless, and they are facing competition from another enterprise setting up directly. But one of their biggest problems is their staff churn. People just don't turn up for shifts. Something has to be wrong with the way they are dealing with their staff. And I mean, if the staff aren't working for you, you can't sell anything or make anything or make sure the quality is good. So I'm saying congratulations to you. You've got the winning formula. They haven't. And I hope that they could perhaps take a lesson from you. Maybe the word will get round of how to treat their staff better. Thank you.
Thank you, Coralie. No more questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to take ahead the point that Coralie was making there. You've got over 8,000 staff and you've got a distribution of about 29 million in their hands as a discretionary bonus. I wonder if you could let us into the method by which you decide how to distribute this, because some of those guys well down the line, if I were a warehouseman, they're on the average wage, shall we say, I'd really be looking forward to that bonus, and I wonder how I would be included.
It's a pretty simple formula. We take the profit of each individual branch, all 260 of them. We take 10% of the profit, or 11% of the profit, and we divide it equally amongst the people who've worked for that branch for a year and are full-timers. And we take a little bit off if they're part-time or worked for less than a year. So it's a pretty simple formula. Okay.
Have you got this going?
Oh, Don's reminding me the branch has to be profitable.
Yeah,
course.
I mean, just because there's 260 branches, 8,342 people, doesn't mean to say everyone gets a check. They have to be profitable and they have to have performed better than the year prior to be able to share in the bonus. And therefore, some of those branches might have low profits, some might have exceptional profits. So it does determine, therefore, the difference between people, between branches, can be quite dramatic depending on the business that they're working in. The journos who call about that, by the way, all they want to do is take 8,067 divided by 29 million so that everyone gets $3,040. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. Any more questions? There will be time later for more questions anyway.
Over here, Bruce.
Come in.
Robert King, shareholder. Firstly, it would be very remiss of me not to thank the directors, management, and all of your employees for such an outstanding year for Mainfreight. So it does give me great pleasure every time I drive around the streets of Auckland and I see those big shiny blue trucks. It really is impressive.
Thank you.
My question is around the transport division statistics, and I note that in the annual report it accounts for about 50% of group turnover. So when I look at the New Zealand turnover of $789 million, I take 50% of that, and that comes to an estimated revenue of about $353 million. Comparing that to the total tonnes that are then shipped through the transport division, it comes to about $144 estimated revenue per tonne. When I do the same figures for Australia, the figure comes to about $327. The Americas, a staggering $1,695, and Europe, $88. I'm just wondering if that is correct and why there would be such a variance for the sales mix. And also, I'd just like to ask, with the expected capital expenditure, I think that's fantastic. And would there be any chance that the directors would look at some form of a dividend reinvestment plan? Thank you.
I've just been through a board meeting, mate. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Look, I think that in each region there are varying degrees of efficiency in the transport businesses, and there's no doubt that we will do our own comparisons as to who's more effective and who's not. I think that in Europe we have far too many people in transport, domestic transport, in administration, and it's an area that we're trying to change. I think in the United States we don't do enough LCL freight compared to what we do in New Zealand and Australia. The area that we probably would focus on more is the margin rather than the revenue per person. And if we were to look at that from a transport point of view, New Zealand makes the best margin, gross margin in the business, and that's because we're far more effective here. Australia are catching up, a bit like their rugby side. And in America, their margins are quite high, but their overhead costs are more than what we have here. And in Europe, our gross margins aren't good enough. So we do the comparisons, but I think it's a lot to do with, is it long-haul freight, is it short-haul freight, is it across city? There's a lot more factors involved in that calculation than just looking at it from on high. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but maybe gives you some colour for it. I'd hate you to open up in competition with us. And the other question was about capital expenditure and...
Dividend reinvestment plan?
Oh, I see. Okay. No, probably. Yeah, the answer would be no. Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Perhaps, sir, you could explain to us what a dividend reinvestment plan is?
If you're receiving cash dividend, I'd like to reinvest that back into great shares in Mainfreight.
That's what we don't issue many more shares. I mean, it's just another way of issuing shares. So
Oh, I see.
Them in the market.
Would you like to answer, Brian?
Well, I guess the philosophy of Mainfreight is that we don't issue any more shares and leave it to people to buy in the market. We don't need any more money in capital, and we've got sufficient cash, thank you very much. So that's the answer, really.
Okay, thank you. No more questions? There is time later for questions. Okay, now we move to the resolutions. We'll move on to the resolutions to be considered today. One of the resolutions, item 4, is adopting the new constitution, is a special resolution which is required to be passed by more than 75% of the eligible votes cast. The remaining items are ordinary resolutions required to be passed by a simple majority, being more than 50% of the eligible voters cast. The board holds discretionary proxies as shown on the screen. With respect to Resolution 1, the re-election of Don Braid, 61,429 shares. With respect to Resolution 2, re-election of Simon Cotter, 72,814 shares. With respect to Resolution 3, re-election of Kate Parsons, 72,714 shares. With respect to Resolution 4, revocation of the existing Constitution and adoption of the new Constitution, 94,269 shares. With respect to Resolution 5, authorising the directors to fix the fees and expenses of the auditors, 81,341 shares. Your board supports all 5 resolutions and intends to vote these shares in favour of each resolution. As mentioned in my earlier address, all voting at today's meeting will be by way of poll, and accordingly, in my capacity as chair, I require that a poll be held for each of the resolutions. I'll invite you to vote after all of the resolutions have been introduced to the meeting. There will be an opportunity to ask questions on or speak to each resolution being put to shareholders. I ask that in the interests of fairness to all shareholders attending the meeting, anyone wishing to speak to a resolution to be as concise as possible and be considerate to other shareholders who may also wish to ask questions. Please also state your name. We will now proceed. In accordance with the new NZX listing rules, Don Braid, Simon Cotter and Kate Parsons retire at this meeting and, being eligible, offer themselves for re-election. Resolution 1. The Board of Mainfreight fully supports the re-election of Don Braid. I hope. I have immense respect for Don. He quickly proved his calibre when he joined us through the acquisition of Daily Freightways in 1994. His unrelenting focus on growing our company is a significant factor in Mainfreight's ongoing success. Don has served as Group Managing Director of Mainfreight since September 2001, and in that time has overseen our expansion from 48 branches in 4 countries to our current 260 branches in 24 countries. He is a man who constantly strives to find improvement, and his passion for Mainfreight is undeniable. I'll now hand over to Don Braid to say a few words.
Thank you for this opportunity. The opportunity to be involved with Mainfreight is very special and is a privilege that is not taken for granted. We have a business that is unique and with an energy and passion for what we do every day. It is the people of Mainfreight that create this energy. They're a very special team of people. The potential we have a company is remarkable. Our stated desire to be in every trading nation of the world is highly likely to occur. It will occur. How exciting for a New Zealand-founded company to find itself not only trading with the rest of the world, but located and employing people in all of those countries, becoming a significant part of global trade. I am sure that the general New Zealand community, probably the media moremost, doesn't appreciate just how special it is that Mainfreight is conducting business every day with so many well-respected global companies across 24 countries, winning business from competitors 10 times our size. 8,342 very special people in our team delivering world-class service. It's very humbling. I continue to believe in our potential, and I continue to have the energy and enthusiasm to remain part of this exceptional company. I'm here and available for as long as you guys want me, or for that matter, as long as I'm being useful. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have pleasure in moving that Don Braid, who retires at this meeting and is eligible for re-election, be re-elected as a director of the company. Would somebody please second the motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, we'll now move to the next resolution. The Board of Mainfreight fully supports the re-election of Simon Cotter. Simon Cotter joined the board in 2013, but has a longer association with Mainfreight, having served as the company's main advisor for acquisitions, debt structures, and other matters since 2003 through Grant Samuel and Associates. He brings strong financial skills and business acumen to the role and currently serves on the Remuneration Committee and is chairman of the Audit Committee. Simon, would you like to address our shareholders?
Thank you, Bruce. The term culture is used liberally throughout Mainfreight, and indeed you would have heard this term a number of times today already. The Mainfreight culture is deeply embedded in the business and is something we nurture and are very proud of. It binds team members, drives the effort they put in, and makes the statement to our suppliers and customers. As Mainfreight continues to grow, preserving and enhancing the culture will become increasingly challenging. I would welcome the opportunity to continue to work with the management and board of Mainfreight to do my part to assist in the strengthening and deepening of the Mainfreight fabric. One part of that role that I find very stimulating is seeing our customers both locally and around the world being progressively exposed to a wider range of Mainfreight services. The majority of our customers, as you heard from Don, use not all three, so our opportunities to impress and to grow are significant. Many of our customers are very sophisticated and demanding, and we can capture more of these with a globally coordinated approach to sales within the company, which we're constantly working on. As Bruce said, my involvement with Mainfreight goes back to the Owens takeover, and since that time I've been fortunate to work with the management team and the board to develop my understanding of the businesses and the challenges we face. As Don said, Mainfreight is competing with large global logistics companies many times its size, and the steps we make must be bold but planned, cohesive and reasoned. Mainfreight is fortunate to have a very capable and dynamic management team to help pursue these ambitions. I consider I'm well placed to keep assisting Mainfreight and would welcome the opportunity to be re-elected. I consider I bring additional support to the financial, strategic and very rarely these days M&A capabilities of the board. I continue to give every effort I can to contribute to the success of your company. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now have pleasure in moving that Simon Cotter, who retires at this meeting and is eligible for re-election, be re-elected as the director of the company. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Thank you. There being no discussion, we'll now move to the next resolution. The Board of Mainfreight fully supports the re-election of Kate Parsons. Kate Parsons joined the board in 2017 with broad financial and analytical experience, acquired in a range of industries both here in New Zealand and overseas. She has considerable knowledge of technology, which adds to the board's capabilities, and is familiar with the complexities of steering companies through growth and change. Kate, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 2 years since I stood before you, seeking my initial election to the board of Mainfreight. The more I get to know this special 100-year company, the more excited I am about the opportunities that we have in front of us, and the more confidence I have in our ability to seize them. In that 2 years, not only have we had significant growth in revenue, EBITDA, and the net profit that we have shared with shareholders and our expanding team, we have also increased our presence and significance globally, with additional branches in new countries and expansion across the regions in which we already operate. The continued focus on network intensification, engaging the right type of customers who will use more than one of our products, quality of service, and building highly capable, motivated teams has delivered growth and built an incredibly strong foundation for the years ahead and the challenges we may face. When we travel as a board and meet with our teams in the various locations around the world, I am constantly reminded of the special recipe that makes Mainfreight unique. The depth of the Mainfreight culture, the pride in our legacy and what we have achieved, and the long-term view that is taken in decision-making and investment is truly magic. The personal accountability of every team member to do good by the Mainfreight name and by our customers, together with a genuine social responsibility, ensures that our growth is not at the expense of the other things we hold important. It is proof that good companies who follow ethical business practices, have a social focus, and allow their people to share in the profits of success, do better and create sustainable, valuable, and worthwhile businesses. The board meetings and site visits around the world are also hugely valuable to our people. It means a great deal to them, to the teams, to see the directors out there on site really trying to understand what they do every day, the challenges they face and the opportunities we are going after. It provides a sense of reality to what is very much a mystery in many companies. Who are our board and what do they actually do? Without these trips and the insights they provide, how can we possibly know what questions to ask, where the investment is needed, and what support we can give? My background as CFO in a variety of innovative New Zealand tech companies means I am particularly conscious of the speed at which technology is coming at us, both in terms of automation and in the digital innovations driven by our customer expectations around access to information and ease of transacting. Adoption of new technology must be balanced with the potential loss of knowledge and skill that is critical in our people. We must be aware of the potential disruption and benefits that technology can bring, but also be very clear on where and when we wish to participate. It can sometimes be challenging as a new director on a board like this, in a company like ours, to feel that you are adding value. We have a highly experienced group of directors with incredible industry knowledge, strong governance experience, and a long enough tenure in the organisation to enable them to truly understand and articulate our strategy and what is required to execute it. We have an exceptional management team across the globe who work tirelessly to get the job done, to think ahead of the game, develop their people, and to execute our strategy. But continuously looking for ways to add value is what we do, working to enable everyone to do even better than we did yesterday, enhancing and embedding an already successful recipe rather than introducing change for change's sake. If re-elected as a director, I will continue to ask questions, anticipate and identify areas of risk, raise concerns, challenge the norm, and participate in healthy debate. But I will also continue to look for ways to support management and our great team of people wherever possible. I will continue to offer guidance in the areas where I have a different set of skills and experience, and I will provide ongoing encouragement to those who are out there every day moving us forward. I will do my best to ensure that board discussions are held in a way that is representative of our diverse group of people, customers and shareholders. I will do what I can to motivate the women in our organisation and ensure them of the opportunities that come with a career at Mainfreight. We are a 100-year company, and that philosophy and way of thinking applies to directors too. It takes time to understand the intricacies of this business and what makes it special. The company and its shareholders invest in developing its team, including its board. An investment that will pay off over time as better understanding allows for more valuable input. I love being part of this wonderful company. I absolutely understand the privilege of the position as well as the responsibility it carries, and can assure shareholders that if re-elected, I will continue to show the level of commitment and passion for the organisation that you have become accustomed to from your directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. I now have pleasure in moving that Kate Parsons, who retires at this meeting and is eligible for re-election, be re-elected as a director of the company. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll now move to the next resolution. Resolution 4, the rationale for the changes that are proposed to the company's constitution are set out in the explanatory note on page 3 of the notice of meeting. To summarise, the NZX introduced new listing rules on 1st of January 2019, which necessitated change to the company's constitution being made. And we also used this opportunity to ensure that other legislative and governance changes are reflected in the proposed new constitution. I now move that the existing constitution of the company is revoked and the constitution tabled at the meeting and referred to in the explanatory note on page 3 of the notice of meeting is adopted as the constitution of the company. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion on that motion? Resolution 5, the last item on the agenda, is to authorise the directors to fix the fees and expenses of the auditor for the ensuing year. I therefore move that the directors be authorised to fix the fees and expenses of the auditor. Would somebody please second the motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion on that motion? Great. There being no discussion, that concludes the agenda items. We'll now vote on the tabled resolutions by way of poll. Shareholders who are entitled to vote and proxies who have discretion as to how they vote will have received a proxy voting form prior to the meeting or have been issued with a form when they registered upon arrival at the meeting. If you submitted a proxy prior to the meeting, you do not need to complete another proxy. If you do not have a form, please go to the Computershare desk at the back of the room where your representatives will be able to assist you. Oh, great. After voting, you should place your proxy voting form in one of the ballot boxes, which Computershare will bring around the room at the conclusion of the formal part of the meeting. Please ensure you sign the form before placing your form in the ballot box. Give you time to do that. General business, we will attempt to have the votes counted as quickly as possible, and I hope to be able to announce whether the resolutions have been passed before you leave. Otherwise, the results of the poll will be advised by way of a release to the NZX tomorrow morning. Are there any other matters shareholders would like to discuss before I declare the meeting closed. This is an opportunity for shareholders to raise any matters they may wish.
Thank you. My name is Duncan Fuller. Been a long-time shareholder of Mainfreight, and I also would like to congratulate Mainfreight on the tremendous work they've done, and also, of course, for making a lot of money for the shareholders. I bought my shares at $1.40, so 16 years ago, so thank you very much for that. One thing that's puzzled me over the years is why in New Zealand there are three companies, Mainfreight, Owens and Daily Freight, and I've never been quite clear of what the difference is between those companies. Could somebody actually tell me that, please?
Yes, there's quite delightful differences. They are all companies that we took over through the years, and they all have slightly different personalities. The way we say it, a little bit unkindly towards ourselves, is that they are all, Owens and Daily Freight are less arrogant than Mainfreight. Mainfreight sometimes thinks we're the dominant one in the market. The Daily Freight people certainly were more humble than the Daily Freight people were for about 10 or 15 years after we took them over. But they're now nudging up against Mainfreight for cheek and arrogance. And lastly, Owens, who we took over in 2005 and were quite on their knees. They were very humble and to a certain extent still are. They have not got facilities yet as good as Mainfreight's got or Daily Freight's got, but by jingos, do they treat Dailies and Mainfreight as older brothers who need a bit of curry now and again. So they just do a wonderful job of not competing against each other so much on price, but it does happen. But competing on service, personality, the things that a smaller business can do, and it's a wonderful combination. Does that help? Thanks, Duncan. Yeah. Yes, Kim Couriers is a company that is in there as well, and Kim Couriers is a specialist dangerous goods mover, and we have become by far the largest in the land in that business. And again, I don't think if we hadn't separated the name off, we would not have grown it nearly as well as we have. They've all prospered with their own name and their own personality. Any more questions? Yes.
Bill Rayner is my name. I'd just like to ask you about the Books and Home scheme. I had occasion to meet with Alan Duff just a few days ago. He was absolutely effusive about the involvement you've had with the Duffy Books and Homes program and Mainfreight support over many years. It's probably one of the most effective and practical charities in New Zealand, putting new books into the schools, so the deciles 1, 2 and 3. And I just noticed, having just got through to page 58, it's also operating in Australia and America. And I just 2 points I'd like to make. Well, was that sort of an initiative that came out of Dufferin schools and Mainfreight support? And then secondly, I know that Alan had some little brochures available for sort of support for Duffy same schools, and I wonder if a concept of perhaps distributing that with the Mainfreight newsletter so the shareholders and capitalists have the opportunity to support Mainfreight's effort in that particular area.
We'll take up that idea. I like it. It's good. We've been supporting Duffy Books and Homes for 25 years, which is the length of time Books and Homes has been going. We have given out 13 million books to children in decile 1 to 3 and some decile 4 schools. Each child in each of those schools, we got more than 500 schools in the group, about 520, plus 300 odd early childhood education institutes, whatever they're called, as well. And each child receives a minimum of 5 new books each year to own and take home. And usually they get at least 2 more books than that per year to own and take home. Every classroom runs a Court Being Good program each week, and the person who's caught being good, and it could be quite a tough boy who you are able to say, young Johnny didn't push in front of Roseanne when you were getting into the queue, so you're caught being good, and the reward for caught being good is a book to take home. We love the program, and it's in a much smaller way in the States and in Australia, partly because Ellen is not there, partly because we're not there, but we have, I think, 25 schools in Australia, and in America we have given away a huge number of books in the millions because we got access to end of run books, which is not necessarily the way that we would like to run the business, but we let it run, and we're very proud of it, and it will. They will, both Australia and America will gain traction at some point. Thank you.
Jenny Miller, New Zealand Shareholders Association. Sorry.
Yes, Jenny.
Hi. Just a question. You're a 100-year company and there's no longevity potions developed yet. Have you got, or do you have a succession plan for Don Braid and key staff members?
I'm doing another 100 years, and so's Don.
On this. Look, I think it's a real question which is important for us, and you're surrounded today not just with shareholders but members of the Mainfreight team, and all around the world they're delivering these results, not necessarily us at all, and you should be very satisfied that you have a business with a management team that is so effective. And it doesn't matter whether it's in New Zealand, Europe, China, America or Australia. And I think as we continue to grow the business, that management team will become far more capable than what we are. I think that our style of doing business, by decentralising the P&L, by having 260 separate P&Ls, is empowering individuals in the business to make decisions. Those people are making the right decisions for you as shareholders, and you should go away with some comfort that this business won't die because Bruce and I get run over by a truck tomorrow.
just an interesting thing that doesn't quite fit that, your answer, but we are being chased by the Ministry of Education for input into why we can't get the sort of people to work for us that we want. And there are a lot of businesses around giving ideas. And I've just sat there at 2 of those meetings and I've stopped going anymore because we don't have any trouble getting the people that we want to work for us. I can't suggest to the Ministry of Education what they should change in education. We have no idea because we are full of talented young people, and that's the way that we run it, with talented young people.
Grant Loney, shareholder. I also wanted to say thank you very much for getting another fantastic return. Unfortunately, like one of the previous speakers, I only bought my shares 3 years ago, so I'm really disappointed. No, fantastic, thank you. Just intrigued with something that Don said about how it's easy to do business beside rail in New Zealand. And I guess the government is very much going to do follow-up development with Kiwi Rail. And I wonder if Mainfreight has any intent to sort of, do more business by rail than previously, or do you have an idea in that regard?
We certainly do, but I'll let Don answer that question.
We are firm supporters of Kiwi Rail. We're firm supporters of the strategy that this current government wants to take with Kiwi Rail. Frankly, the previous government had no idea and didn't want to know about Kiwi Rail. In fact, one previous financial minister, or whatever they call themselves, a bunch of accountants, suggested that we were offlaying our assets by using Kiwi Rail. We see rail as a very effective mode to move freight in this country and in fact all around the world, and it's really hard to convince our people in Australia, US and Europe to think about rail. So I think we will continue to move more freight on rail in this country when the opportunity presents. Our team here in New Zealand have won a major new customer in the far north, and we're busy talking to Kiwi Rail now as to how we could move that freight by rail rather than by road. So those conversations are occurring every day with our great team here in New Zealand with Kiwi Rail execs.
I think one thing that Don hasn't mentioned, Brian, is that it is vastly less polluting to the atmosphere to move a ton of freight by rail than to move it by road. And that's part of the contribution towards trying to help with global warming, is to grow the movement on rail. That's just part of it. The rail stands up on its own, but it's good to know that every wagon that we send out is less polluting than if we had the freight on trucks.
Stephen Glassball. Traditionally, the New Zealand government has always given Mainfreight a hard time by being successful. Why do you think that is?
I wish I knew.
Tall poppy syndrome.
It is. I think it is tall poppy syndrome. I'm kind of surprised that you must have read our books. They were lobbied so hard, and our government was very, very lobbyable by anybody who was a knight or that sort of stuff in the 70s when we started. And they frankly sat around with their whiskies and said, oh, we should not allow these Mainfreight louts. And And it's it hung in there for a long, long, long time. And then we've had people, as Don was just saying then, who have no interest in the rail and frankly tell lies about why we use rail. Say it in public meetings. It's unbelievable. Anyway, they're hopefully history now.
Malcolm Stokes, shareholder. This is certainly a special company. My wife and I have been shareholders for over 20 years. We paid $1.16 a share. I remember a 1 for 10 bonus soon after.
Yes.
A special dividend when you sold the Bible, when you acquired Owens. It's been a great journey. I'd just like to recall a meeting I went to. Fisher Funds have been a great supporter of your company with your investing. And Don Bray happened to be the guest speaker. At the end of the speech, there was a question from the floor. At the share price of $12, did the company look at splitting the shares? And Don said no, got no intention of splitting those shares. And $20 sounds pretty good, but it's now $40, so it must be even better.
Then the answer's still no.
Okay, no more questions. The first AGM that we had took 20 minutes. This one's only an hour and 20.
Computershare if they've got the votes.
Has Computershare concluded the account? Here comes the runner. Thank you, Nikki. Right. Thank you. I've received the results of the poll and can advise that all resolutions have been passed. Full details will be advised by way of a release to the Stock Exchange tomorrow. That concludes the formalities, and we now invite you to join the directors and company executives and for refreshments or a glass of Villa Maria's wonderful wine. Thank you.